Do we like the new music? If you like the new music, let me know, because the music was as me and Avi were going over our first show and what we could do better next time, but what we didn't do well the first time. He brought up the music from the previous show and he said he didn't like it. Now that hurt my feelings quite a bit because I made that music myself, just as I've made the music that you just listened to now. So if you like the new music and you prefer it to the old music, let me know, because you'd be settling a hot point of controversy. Isn't that
Your
correct?
music production is like your content average. Okay,
Ooh,
average. That's what you're gonna
ooh,
get now.
tough,
Anyway,
tough.
now look, another installment of across. I was about to say something else, but across the pond. Um, we're doing it early this week because I will be on vacation. Evan is also taking a break, I believe, end of the week. I don't know where. Somewhere nice with his, fiance, girlfriend. I don't know what you call it these days. The younger generation, but yeah. Um, what a weekend. Football aside, I had a really good weekend. Evan, I watched there was a boxing fight, a British boxing fight. My fighter did lose. He lost to a fellow, but he lost to a fighter from Liverpool, Liam Smith.
Hmm.
I was betting for Chris Eubank, so he lost that fight. And then the UFC, nice little flow into the UFC, a few beers popping, a few G and
Hmm.
T's
Hmm.
throughout the afternoon. And then the UFC, which was a great card. I picked 4 fights, had a 4 fight parlay come through. This is
Oh,
the
congratulations!
third time in my career, the third time in my career. So,
Third time. Wow.
yeah, it was a nice little win. And then Sunday rolled into the big 49ers game. Brock Purdy,
Oh, yeah.
sensational.
Congratulations,
Looking,
congratulations to the 49ers and all of their fans.
are you not a
Uh,
49ers fan?
I'm not really an anything fan of the NFL. I like to watch it, but I like it being the sport that I watch that I don't have a team. It makes it more casual, a little more enjoyable. But I generally tend to have Raiders sympathies. All my friends are Raiders fans. But yeah, shout out to everybody in the comments. I don't think we'll find too many NFL fans in the comments today. But if you are an NFL fan and you enjoyed the playoff action over the weekend, let us know. You had a good weekend, Abby. That sounds nice. I think my weekend was very good. I was trying to do a lot of things to make me forget about football. Global football, that is. In Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if you experienced some of this too, but this season in particular has reminded us sort of just how brutal 4:30 a.m. kickoffs can be in California, because for the last 3 years we were sort of at the summit of football and it didn't matter if we kicked off at 4:30 a.m. because we were probably going to win and not have our weekends ruined. But lo and behold, we are sort of back into dreading 4:30 a.m. kickoffs, not just because you have to wake up early, but because the potential to have your entire weekend, thrown off the edge of the cliff is back. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, you know what? I've noticed the last few 4:30 kickoffs, we've either drawn or we haven't lost or won. We've actually just have drawn, and it's been a sucker punch. To be honest, just quickly, we'll recap on the Chelsea game very briefly because a lot of other content creators, respectfully, have gone through it over the weekend and some great analysis. I knew in the first 10 minutes we weren't going to win, Evan. Just this
Mm-hmm.
whole setup, just the crowd, it just seemed like a very, very somber mood. We just didn't look up for it. We didn't look up for it. I didn't see anything that made me think, we're gonna get a victory. We're gonna see something different here. We might even get a gap per goal. No, 10 minutes in, I just sort of said, you know what, I'll settle for the draw. Not
Mm-hmm.
settle for the draw as a fan, but I just think it's going to be a draw. If anything, I thought they would have nicked one. I thought the Havertz goal. I thought, when it went in, of course, I didn't even think of offside. But I thought, here
Mm-hmm.
we go again, similar to last season
Yeah,
where he had scored from the header.
exactly.
So yeah, how are you feeling?
I mean, well, it was on paper, it was a mid-table clash. A bunch of funny people on Twitter billed it as a mid-table clash, and it was thoroughly a mid-table clash. I was surprised to look at the XG afterwards and see that both teams had broken over 1.0 XG. And for me, that's why you can't always look at XG, because for me, there was, with the exception of Chukwuemeka sort of stumbling upon his own feet in the final third, there weren't that many clear-cut openings for either team. But yeah, I mean, what can we say that hasn't already been said? I was talking with with the guys on Red Fellas, and they were all saying in one sense of the word or the other that we just couldn't see where a chance was going to come from. And we saw that sort of in the lineup. Obviously Harvey Elliott's current positional uh, usage at Liverpool is hard, like very much under scrutiny. So if people have a problem with him playing at right central midfield, they'll for sure have a problem with him playing out on the left wing. So I didn't see any effective partnerships sort of in that lineup, and obviously the game didn't show me anything else. So it was difficult to imagine what a Liverpool chance was going to look like. And I think most people would sort of agree with that. But yeah, that was my general takeaway. I just couldn't see a world in which we won convincingly or even made a fair amount of chances.
No, I agree, and I want to comment. It's a nice little segue into our next conversation. The first topic we could say of the night, afternoon, wherever
Mhm.
you guys are, whether you're in India, whether you're back home, whether you're in the US, whether you're from Singapore. I know Naveer Parisha is from Malaysia, so big up to Naveer. Um, Harvey Elliott played very well against Wolves, and
He
I don't
did.
need to, voice my opinions of the player, but I
Mhm.
felt that he should be playing. If he's going to play now, play him on the right hand side when Salah needs a break, or come on for Salah when things are not going right, or Salah needs a rest. Can't play on the right hand side of the front three. I saw him on the left hand side, ironically, against Brentford in the second half. Klopp put him there, took off Ox. I think he got
Mhm.
another body in midfield, and he pushed Elliot on the left.
Mhm.
He has no pace, Evan. He has no pace to beat a man on the outside. He has no right foot to come on the inside and let one go, right?
Mhm.
So it didn't make any sense to me that he was going to play on that left hand side on Saturday.
Mhm.
And it's unfair on the kid. This is where I will say, look, it's unfair to judge him of that performance, because why would you not put him on the right hand side of the front three if you have got no other options? Play him to play his strengths. Play him on that right hand side. Play Gakpo on the left. Gakpo, we've seen it for PSV, for Holland even. I know in the World Cup
Mhm.
he was more centrally, but we've seen him come off the left. Play Salah through the middle. We've done that before. But we saw Harvey Elliott on that left, and he just looked short. It was a very bad decision.
Yeah.
And we've seen Klopp last season, especially, where he has tweaked it. All this, that he hasn't got no tactical nous. He does have it. Klopp can change it in game when he needs to. But this
Mhm.
season, we've seen it a lot of the time. We're making errors again. And it boils down to the tactical approach that we have from the coaches. It's not the players,
Mhm.
it's the actual coaching. Like, what are we doing? Why? I want you to tell me in depth, because you're great at this. Why did we opt for Harvey Elliott on that left hand side?
It's a great question. The only thing I can really think of, shout out to Phil, 2 in the morning in Zambia. Wow.
Some
Um,
dedication.
yeah. The only thing I can think of is in Klopp's quest to plug the holes. We're a bit of a leaking ship here right now, tactical woes, injury issues. I think it's a sense of he wants to keep Mohamed Salah on the right wing more than anything else. Everybody else can go wherever. I think part of Klopp's and Pep's like sort of approach to handling the current crisis is to keep your best player in his best position, best attacking player, I should say, Mohamed Salah. So to accommodate that, you will end up with things like Gakpo playing as a lone number 9, often an isolated figure. You'll have Elliot on the left, Nunez on the left, Fabio Carvalho on the left. Anybody who can play some semblance of left wing football will have to play there just to make sure it doesn't collide with Mohamed Salah playing in his best position, playing in his natural position. Um, the issue that I have with Harvey Elliott at left wing isn't that he's a left-footed player playing on the left wing without an explosive burst of pace. That's obviously an issue, but for me, the biggest issue is that he can play on the left wing. In the second half specifically, I saw him coming very narrow to the point where he was maybe playing off of Gakpo's shoulder, maybe just 5 to 10 yards to the left. And he looked better in a narrow position, almost central. But the problem that creates is then Robertson doesn't really have a partner he can bounce off of. So it's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I'm pretty sure Klopp told him in the second half, hey, start to tuck in. Don't be so isolated out there on the left wing. But then, Robertson can't have anybody do 1-2 passes with. Robertson doesn't have anybody to drag players around and create space for his own sort of signature bombarding runs forward. So it's a bit of a one step forward, 2 steps backward, or 1 step forward, 1 step sideways sort of situation with Klopp as he tries to plug the gaps left by the injuries to Jota and Diaz long term, and the just temporary things like Darwin's knock that he picked up last week. So,
but the two different, just coming in this, Diaz and Jota, right? They can get in behind. Elliot doesn't do that, and Elliot can't do that, and that's not his game. That's not his game. His game is close control, the 1-2s. He can pick a pass. He's not flourished as a 10, and that could be because we've not created the right sort of environment for him in terms of players around him, the powerful players in a pivot maybe for him. I agree with that. But he works in half spaces. He can get past a player, but then he's a give and go, right? Like
he's the type of guy who likes to have the entire game happening in front of him as opposed to behind him. Whereas Darwin Nunez is the type of guy that likes to have the entire game behind him where it's just him and the defender. That's so sort of polar opposites in terms of their tactical effectiveness. Asim says, you guys think Klopp should look at this 3-2-2-3 on the ball boxed midfield, as we're seeing a lot of the creative coaches going towards Pep and Arteta, to name a few, 2 6s and 2 10s. The thing I like change, and I like the idea of Klopp experimenting with things, but I think what people might forget at times is that not only is Klopp a known pragmatist, but when you're in our situation where we're treading water and we're trying to plug the gaps, we're a bit of a sinking ship. I think in the present term, you might cause more harm doing such a dramatic tactical and formational shift than you would if you just stuck with the 4-3-3, which, even though you have few options to perform in the natural roles, you might at least have players who are tactically familiar with it at the very least. And I would say if there was going to be a big switch like that, a dramatic formational switch, a different ethos, a different everything, it would have had to have happened in the off season or very early in the season, because we are approaching the halfway point. We are running out of games in which to put together a run that'll get us Champions League football or even Europa League football. So I think we're better off sticking with the 4-3-3 for now. But that's just because of the time frame, the time it would take to embed a new tactical flexibility, new tactical knowledge, an entirely new shape.
They had that chance in Dubai, though. They had 3-4 weeks where they could have worked on this. They could have worked on this and said, you know what, let's try different theories, different methods. Because look, let's face it, we didn't have that many World Cup players, that were representing Liverpool. Like, we were kind of lucky, and we thought the rest will do them good. They'll energize themselves. We'll come back fit and firing. We'll have that press. We'll have that not rock and roll as such, but we'll be kind of back to near our best. I'm saying 100% or 90%, but even 80%. We could win games, but Evan, we kind of look worse. We got a result against Villa. We got a result against who was the other team? We got a result. We were quite lucky. Leicester City, right? Thanks to the 2 own goals. Go to Brentford, outplayed, outmuscled, outfought. And then Brighton, outskilled, outplayed. They were like the tiki-taka football. They were like the Spain of old, of 2008, 2012, the way they played against us. They played us off the park. We've gotten kind of worse. Is that a worrying issue for you, Evan? I'm not saying he's lost the players. I'm not saying that the players don't trust the system anymore. And I think Thiago alluded to it. What I've said, not just me, but like a few others have said, like, look, last season took its toll. And last season, I felt, was the summer where we should have got 3-4 high-quality players alongside the Ramseys, Carvalhos, the Darwin Nunez's. If we had even got 3 quality players, we would have gone again, Evan. I'm pretty sure of it. We would have gone toe-to-toe again with the Arsenal this season and with the Man City's.
It's understated, the mental fatigue. I'm sure any fan could look at just how many games were played last season, the legs we put on our midfielders who have to do the most running, cover the most ground. Anybody can look at that and be like, yeah, that's going to be a tired group of players. But not enough people look and see and say that's a mentally exhausted group of players. So not only would fresh legs have reinvigorated our midfield and other positions that have to do so much running, but these would be players who are not mentally exhausted of 3 or 4 title races going to going to the wire, 2 lost Champions League finals. These are some serious mileage we have put on some players, and most of these players are sort of physical freaks, and we're going to ride them until there's nothing left, sort of like Salah, Robertson, Wijnaldum before he left. These were players you can put 50 games on per season, but the mental toll that you've alluded to is understated, and I think new like a more of a reinvention of Liverpool, a more of a proactive approach to our rebuild this last summer not only could have brought in the fresher legs that were needed to go again, but the fresher minds, the fresher attitudes. People say hunger. I don't think hunger is the right word. I still think guys like Salah and Trent and Van Dijk and all of our stars want to win just as much as they always have, but guys who aren't sort of they don't have the demons, you know what I mean, the demons of their head of these title races, these exhaustive Champions League campaigns. These guys, it might sound like a dramatic word, but they might be scarred from it. So new legs and new minds, I think should be the motto.
And I
Shout out to
know,
everybody. Oh, I just
yeah,
want to say hi to people real quick. Shout out to
go on.
Conroy. What's up, Conroy? I think my dad left a comment. My
Mr.
dad's my
Gregory, he
dad's
did. Mr.
yeah,
Gregory.
Mr. Gregory's in the house. He's a bit of a Harvey Elliott ultra, as I am, and
Oh,
definitely
he'll hate
I
me. He must hate me then.
yeah, yeah, he's not much for the Harvey Elliott deniers, but he sort of speaks for me in the sense, and this is the same logic. We can judge Harvey Elliott and Darwin Nunez and Cody Gakpo and all these guys who have seemed to divide opinion right now when Liverpool are a functional team again. I think I said it on Red Fellas. I said, a guy like Takumi Minamino who came into Liverpool at the height of our power, at the height of our functionality and tactical nuance, and he did not look like a Liverpool player. That was a fair criticism to levy at Takumi Minamino. In the meantime, guys like Gakpo, Nunez, Elliott, they've come into this Liverpool team as starters in some of our most difficult periods of the most difficult period of the last 7 years. So I just absolutely think that we should reserve our judgment on people like that until we sort of look like a team that can manage a game over 90 minutes consistently.
No, greatly put. And we must invite Papa Gregory one day onto the show. It'll be an honor to be in both your presences. I'm sure he can talk a fine game too, like
Yeah,
father, like son. But we
definitely
want to
can.
get on to. I didn't want to dwell too much on the Chelsea game. It's done. We got the draw. The only positives are that it's over and we got, we kept a clean sheet. There's always
Yeah.
some kind of positive you can take. Don't care what the masses say and so what kind of mentality is that. There's always little positives that you can take from even a negative result. Let's go into our lineups because you were working on you were working on some graphics and stuff and said, give me your lineup for the FA Cup game. And let's see if you're going to change your formation or your personnel. And I think we should go into that, the Brighton game next, which
Okay.
will be the FA Cup tie. And I think
Mhm.
it's a game where I think we can try something new. I have
Mhm.
been bombarding about this for the last sort of year now,
Mhm.
that I would love to see, a certain Trent Alexander-Arnold tried out in midfield. It's no more a FIFA thing or fantasy teams, where
Mhm.
you just put players for the sake of it in these positions that won't exist in real life. I think it is time to give a go. It's time for Trent to maybe be utilized in a midfield three and see how it goes. We have nothing to lose at this point. If we get
Mhm.
knocked out to Brighton, it's fine. We've won the domestics last season. I rather us push for as much as we can for the Champions League, even though Real Madrid won't be any it won't be any easy task. But let's go and pull up my first graphic, my first 11 for the Brighton game. Lovely, great work again, Evan. Great work.
Oh,
Love the
thank you.
visuals. Love the visuals. And it's not many times that I pay you compliments, but here's another one for you. Keep this for
Yeah.
the archives. But yeah,
Definitely.
just a quick thing just a quick assessment of what I think Klopp should do, not Klopp will do. I think what Klopp should do. Obviously, goalkeeper, speaks for itself. Allison, Robbo, Konate, Matip. Although I think he's had a poor season, I think I would give him a go against Brighton again, even though he was shocking. But I'll play Joe Gomez on the right because I think we need to be defensively as strong as we can. And I know Joe Gomez hasn't been great this season, but the last two showings, 2 clean sheets, formed a nice little sort of partnership with Konate. Still lapses of concentration, but I would love to play him on the right-hand side against Brighton. And then I've gone with Thiago, Keita, and Trent, Evan. The front
Hmm.
three should speak for itself, Gakpo, Nunes, and Salah. But Keita, Thiago, and Trent is what I've gone for. I think there is a bit of everything in there. Maybe not the physicality that we're accustomed to, but I don't think any of our players, Fabinho, Henderson, have shown any physicality against, oppositions this season. We look fairly
No,
weak.
not at
But
all.
for control, for passing, there's players there. The 3 of them there can pick out a pass. In the eye of the needle, what we say is like, can they pick an eye of the needle pass? All 3 can. All 3 can, and it's up to you
Mhm.
how you want to call it. You can say Cater and a Thiago pivot, and Trent maybe in front of them, or do a flat line 3 around the center circle. Trent as an RCM protecting Gomez, and then maybe he gets
Mhm.
closer to Salah, who I think his form has dipped because there's no one getting close to him. There's not another Liverpool player
Yeah,
getting close. There's no support
absolutely.
for Salah. And then I've
Mhm.
got Thiago and Keita. I think Keita he's playing well. I don't think he was
Yeah.
great against Chelsea, apart from that penalty shout, which I thought was hilarious. But he's shown
Yeah.
signs, and I would rest Bajicic for this game. I know it's a cup game, and if anything, he should be starting. But I want to go with that 3 because we've got to be a little bit experimental now. We've got to be a little bit, inventive. Is the word that I'm looking for, Evan.
Yeah, what I will say about your team, Abby, that I do think is valid is there was a time where I didn't think Thiago could play a lone 6 sort of role for us. I think, obviously he comes into this Liverpool team and it became a meme. When's Thiago going to get his first half yellow card? Because he was always lunging in and never getting anywhere near the ball. But the way he's been able, even at his sort of, post 30 age, to adapt to how midfield duels in the Premier League work and how pressing works. And now he's one of the best duelists in the league in terms of, recovering the ball, interceptions, successful tackles. All the numbers show that he's good at it. So now in my head, I do think Thiago could be a more effective presence at the 6 than Fabinho and Henderson these days, just based on what we've seen this season. Trent in midfield, it's a lovely dream. I just don't know if we're ever going to see it. We're going off of evidence going back to when he was 15, 16, when he would play in those positions. I mean, it's just been a long time. um
Just,
I
just
do.
quickly intervene. Don't hold your thought. Hey, bro says it's nice to dream, but let it stay a dream.
Let it stay a dream. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think Keita's been playing well enough to get into your team as well. Gomez at right back has been a bit of a mixed bag for us, I think. I think for the right game, Gomez at right back works. Um, just the only I just can't see the Trent thing happening. As cool as it would be, I just can't really see it happening. But in terms of your ethos, time to move into midfield, Gomez for solidity, and Klopp's a pragmatist, so you expect it to be a 4-3-3. I definitely agree with all that, but I'll go into mine real quick. So here's my team. Not all that different from yours, Avi. So I've gone with Pacetic back at the 6. I've gone with Thiago and Keita. Basically just people who are a combination of people who are available and people who have deserved to play just based on merit. And I think there will be a bit of a rest, before Brighton in the FA Cup. So it's not like this FA Cup fixture is jammed in between more crucial games, I believe. So the ethos of this team is sort of to reestablish existing tactical familiarities. So let's get Trent and Salah playing on the same side together, combining as they usually do, because I thought Salah represented such an isolated figure in recent games, and it's no coincidence that we've nullified his effectiveness by not being able to get his own teammates around him. There was periods last season when we were just, back at the summit of the game where that triangle of Trent, Henderson, and Salah I thought was the most lethal trio in world football, just in terms of generating chance after chance after chance. Like it was just impeccable, the movement. Um, I haven't put Henderson in because I think he is such a defensive liability these days that I can't justify putting him in just because he's tactically familiar. But yeah, I want Gakpo at left wing because I do think that's where he's going to play for Liverpool when everybody's fit. That's where he will slot in, and I want him to start to form a partnership with Andrew Robertson because, like I said, Andrew Robertson, another player who I felt was hopelessly isolated, especially with Elliott at left wing against Chelsea. No one to really bounce off of, no one to really vibe with per se. So this is sort of how my team would go. I want to sort of play Gomez back into form. I think Matip, like you said, has been really poor this season. So this is how I'm setting it up, and this is how I would like to see it. I want to form new partnerships between Robertson and Gakpo, and I want to find balance between building for future and reigniting form. So that's why you see, sort of classic partnerships like Trent and Salah, and
Do
just
do we
the
do we Your Honor, do we run the risk of Thiago getting injured sometime soon?
always,
Is this
always.
a game where
I
you
mean,
wouldn't mind?
here,
So
the thing about Thiago's injury proneness is he could be, whether his match load has been heavy in recent weeks or light, he's always sort of at the risk of picking up a knock that keeps him out for a month or two. That's just how it works. It's how he is. It's what we signed up for. So yes, we are at a risk of doing that, but for lack of better options, I'm not quite sure. The reason I've put Baccetic in is not just because he's playing better than Henderson and Fabinho right now. It's because if the season is a write-off, then I want to find this sort of balance, like I've said, in the ethos of building for the future, but Cetic starting, getting games, with Thiago, with people he would play with, and then sort of getting the starters in around him. So this is ideally how you bed somebody in my opinion. Thiago and Keita, tactically flexible, knowledgeable senior players around a young guy who will occasionally need some help despite all of his obvious qualities. So this is how you bet a young player in, with starters around him, not, with, a typical third string FA Cup squad around him. That's not where I think you would see the best of it. But Cetic has looked so good recently, in my opinion.
superb.
At least 50% of that is because he's had Thiago next to him. So I want to continue his development that way.
It's one thing that I should have got you to do, amongst the other thousand things that I have you doing a night before, hours before a show, is we should have got the running stats of Bajicic against Wolves and Chelsea compared to Fabinho's. Pick out two games of Fabinho's and what their running
Yeah.
stats are like, because it feels as if Bajicic, and we'll come onto that slide if you don't mind, and we'll come back to your front. Our front three is the same, but we'll come back to our front three. Bajicic is getting a lot of touches all over the pitch, and it just seems, maybe it's visually and maybe because Fabinho is having a poor season, that Bajicic is just getting around the pitch a lot more than Fabinho is. Evan?
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise the guy is, about 10 years younger and far more mobile. It doesn't take much to be more mobile than Fabinho. Never a guy who was blessed with any sort of pace, but there was a time where Fabinho was capable of putting out fires all over the pitch. And whether that time has expired fully or not, I'm not quite sure. The signs aren't encouraging though. But these signs are encouraging of a guy who I think in recent weeks has proved that he is sort of worthy of a first team spot. And in terms of us thinking about how we would rebuild a squad, I would write down Baccetic on that piece of paper. Whereas before, these guys were sort of on the fringe of the academy and the first team. You never really know if you can think of them as squad options. I think you can obviously quite clearly at this point think of Stefan Baccetic as a squad option.
There was a comment, and been some great comments. Shane McGee's said something as well, which I'll read out. But there's been I think a super chat from Messi FC. Nice one, mate. Usually on most channels. Thank you for the super chat. City played 4 or 5 games less. Preseason is an issue. I think he's talking about the amount of games that we played last season prior to the Community Shield, where City had only played, I think, 1 game or 2 games before the Community Shield. And it told sort of, because, we did play them off the park, but it was a depleted Man City team. But thank you nonetheless for the super chat. A question to both from Gene, the co-owner of the channel. Question to both: are we writing off Fab? I'll let you answer that before I'll go.
For me, not completely. I think we've skewed what a normal workload should be for Fabinho. He was our most available midfielder last season. We went as far as you could possibly go in all 4 competitions, and I don't think typically players in that position have played so relentlessly as he has. I think that is a player suffering not only from extreme mental fatigue, but also probably physical fatigue as well. Is his time at Liverpool over? N No, I don't think so. Is he the first choice based on form? No, definitely not. There are, at least 2 or 3 other players playing better than him. Um, I'm willing to offer him the same excuse that I offer players like Elliot, Gakpo, and Nunez, of the sense of let's judge them once we're functional again. But obviously, Fabinho as a senior player, I expect him to bring a sense of that familiarity and functionality and consistency that I just haven't seen from him this season. And it's less so much that he might be physically spent. The guy just can't win midfield duels to save his life.
Yeah.
So I acknowledge all of the concerning signs. I don't think it's unlikely that he might be sort of cooked. Like we've absolutely seen the best of him, but I'm not. I don't think I would sell him in the summer if that's what the question eventually leads to.
I don't think he's a write-off either. And there's people saying that, at 29, if a 30 million pound offer came in for him, they would sell him. And that's, for me, he's 30 in October. That's a lot of money. I think he's been absolutely brilliant for this football club. I think he's been one of the monumental signings. People talk about Allison and Van Dijk, but Fabinho has been monumental for this football club in our success.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Came from Monaco. Everyone thought he was United bound. Surprise, surprise. And we crept in, sneakily and got him to sign for us a few days after the Champions League final after Kiev. I wouldn't sell him. I think he still has the experience. I think, like most footballers at the club at the moment, first teamers are struggling. We'll get
Mhm.
on to Mo Salah. They've all struggled this season. The likes of Robbo, Allison has struggled in recent games, making a few
Mhm.
howlers. So no, I wouldn't sell him, but I do feel that we need someone.
Absolutely.
We talk about Moises Caicedo, but we need someone to support him, and we need him. He only functions, in my opinion, when he has strong runners alongside him. I know he had Thiago last season, but Hendo still had it. He still had it
Yeah.
last season too. And his form was good, but up until the last 3 months of the season, I know he picked up an injury. I know he missed the FA Cup final. He didn't feel right in Paris, and that kind of form has sort of continued on this season.
Mhm.
And there's some games where there's no power in his legs. There's no snappiness.
Mm.
There's no on the heels of the opponent. He's lost that. There's too much disparity. There's too much disengagement from the opposition. Like he can't make up space. He can't even draw a foul because he's so far away.
Mhm.
So I do feel that he needs support. Bajicic is coming along nicely. I would say nicely for now.
Mhm.
And he offers us a great option next season. He's only one of 3 midfielders, Evan. I want to be brutally honest, that would keep for the next season. Himself, Fabinho, and Thiago. The rest, if offers come in, I would sell. And Klopp's talked about being a little bit more ruthless now. I am not loyal to my players. Next summer we'll tell in that midfield area who he's ready to let go and who he's
And
going to continue to keep.
there was a time where I would have said, maybe 12 months ago, maybe even 8 months ago, I would have said that that's too radical of a take and that we need these players. But absolutely, guys are on the chopping block. Henderson falling off a cliff. I mean, lovely guy to have as a captain, but offensively and defensively, just such an insane liability these days. Obviously, it looks like we're letting Naby Keita's deal run, it seems. So you can imagine he's going to be on the way out. Oxlade-Chamberlain probably on the way out. Milner, old enough to be my dad, perhaps on the way out. So we'll see. I mean, you're right, Avi. So many people are either 1 foot out the door already, or their form in general decline doesn't warrant them, never mind a starting spot, but perhaps not even a squad spot. But the reason I wouldn't sell Fabinho kind of reminds me of where we were after our center back crisis during the COVID season. of the sense of we've only just now got center back depth. Why would we want to get rid of it? You know what I mean? That was when we signed Kanate. I remember I was having to talk people off a ledge about selling Gomez. And I'm just like, we have only just now came away from this scarring season of losing every senior center back. And it's because we were put in that situation because we didn't have proper depth and we took a gamble and we got burned for it. You're willing to go back to you want to go back to that situation of having no depth. So that's kind of how I feel about the midfield right now. We clearly don't have the required depth. We clearly don't have the required level or legs. And perhaps Fabinho is one of the reasons we're in this position. But at the same time, I think the upside of resting Fabinho, rotating him more, adding powerful runners alongside him, which it seems like we're keen to do in the summer. I think the upside of keeping him and sort of putting him back in a better situation, that's a greater upside than 30 million in the market. So that's where I stand on that.
Great point. The front three now. Cody Gakpo, I think that was his 4th game in. Jury's out, and the jury will be out. I said yesterday on a show with the lads that we can't really judge him coming into this football club. It's in disarray. You can't expect him to be that spark. I know Diaz came last season in January and instantly created a spark, but we were top.
That's because we were a good team.
We were top of the league. Yeah, we were top of the league.
We were a good fucking team.
I
can't imagine Diaz would. If Diaz was coming this January as opposed to the last one, I can't imagine he would be faring much better than Cody Gakpo right now. Not to mention Cody Gakpo is an entirely different player. People have been, maybe complain. They're like, oh, he doesn't seem to be the fastest. He doesn't like to make runs in behind. And my counter to that would sort of be like, do you want all of your squad options to be the exact same profile? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want Diaz's understudy to be just a lesser version of him. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, we have Diaz, fast, direct, sort of classic inverted winger. And then you have Gakpo, who's more of a creative, field in front of him, bounce off of him type of player. Sort of like a Kulusevski. Sort of similar job that he's doing at Spurs is, I think, a good comparison there. But yeah, I think people need to be patient with Gakpo. And, patience is obviously the buzzword there. In the age of social media, people don't want to be patient. And I think people are upset with the idea of perhaps having to wait 7 to 8 months to see what Cody Gakpo is all about. And there's a good chance we might have to wait 7 to 8 months to even see something close to what he's most capable of. Because
I hope we're not waiting 6-7 months for a goal, Evan. I hope you won't.
No, probably not. But Cody Gakpo in a fully functional Liverpool team, you might have to wait 7 to 8 months, is what I'm trying to say here. So
I think he needs a moment, doesn't he? I said it yesterday. He needs that cop moment where he scores in front of the cop, a deflection, whatever it could come off his bum, whatever it is. He needs that moment just to get going. Because people will say, wait a minute, Mudryk came on second half and absolutely sort of tore us a new one with his pace, the direct running, the dribbling, causing all sorts of problems. But he's coming at 90 million. Gakpo's coming at 35 million. We've got to give him time. I think there's a lot of animosity towards Gakpo too. So, I think it's psychological because we all want a midfielder. And Gakpo seems like, why did we get Gakpo when we've got a serious issue that needs addressing? I think there's an element to that too.
And absolutely. I think people are sort of upset with the fact that he's just not Moises Caicedo, and that just pisses people off. And listen, I would have gone for a midfielder, like, first and foremost as well. Speaking of midfielders, Abby, I think it's time to segue into the name on everybody's lips today. The news that I woke up to today. The rumor mill is saying that Ryan Gravenberch. Take away that little headline there. We don't need that because I clearly, I put in all this work. I put in all this work, and you put your shitty banner in front of my nice graphic. Fuck off. Age 20, plays for Bayern Munich. He's a central midfielder. On Transfer Market, they value him at 30, which I think is kind of in the ballpark of what Bayern paid for him. So the link comes from his agent being spotted at Anfield on the weekend.
She reminded me of my just on his agent. She reminded me of my school teacher back in the day. Very nice stuff. Very nice stuff, Evan. Anyway, carry on.
Lovely, top quality punditry and analysis here on Across the Pond. Agent spotted at Anfield on the weekend. Potential loan move rumored. Now, Ryan Gravenberch is a a player I was really keen on, and I think there was a moment in time, I think, before Jude Bellingham
Never
really.
happening under Viola. We were never going to deal with Viola.
No, no, no. Yeah, but there was a moment in time where before Bellingham really caught fire at Dortmund that guys like Gravenberch were being mentioned in the same breath as Bellingham in terms of the best all-round midfield teenage talents. And he's gone to Munich and doesn't seem to be favored by Nagelsmann too much. So it's one of those things where this guy's just turned 20 years old. Clearly so much can happen for him in his career, but he also needs to play at this point. It's really crucial that he logs in a ton of game time over the next 3 to 4 years if he's to meet the massive potential that he is sort of that he's been touted with. So, but it's a difficult midfield system at Bayern. I don't watch too much of Bayern Munich, but
They play like a 4-4-2-2-2. They play at times with
yes, and
Musiala
I've
as the sitting midfielder with Kimmich.
yeah.
Then they've
So
got Goretzka going even further than ahead of them.
but I've heard that Goretzka is even struggling for form in this system. So for me, it's less telling about who Ryan Gravenberch is as a person and a player. It's more about how maybe demanding Nagelsmann's system is. He might be an awkward fit for that. Because for me, Leon Goretzka is like the world-class version of what Ryan Gravenberch is trying to become. So if Goretzka is struggling, then I can only imagine the 20-year-old less experienced version of him is struggling. And this is a guy who can do a little bit of everything. I mean, his highlight reel at Ajax was stunning. I mean, raking passes for 60, 70 yards, switching the play, neat 1-2s, neat feet, banger goals from 20 to 30 yards. He's a guy who I think could be available for a whole lot less. I mean, if Bayern want to cut ties this summer, I would absolutely wholeheartedly support a cheeky loan move in January with a mandatory option to buy at the end of it for around 25 to 30 million. I think that could absolutely be a coup for Liverpool.
Can I play devil's advocate?
You don't like him.
I don't rate him. No, I
You don't rate him.
Even at AX, even when popular Twitter accounts were saying Ryan Gravenberch has been offered to Liverpool, I've just never been sold by him. He looks good on YouTube, yes. And at 20 years old, yeah, he should be getting first team football. I think at 20 years old, he should be pushing that Bayern team. And Nagelsmann's no slouch. Nagelsmann's not a amateur coach. He knows what he's doing, even though he's 35. He knows what he's doing. He knows how he wants
he's a coach that's backed youth in the past. So it's not like he's holding Gravenberch's inexperience above his head.
Like so, for a loan deal, Dazo, and guys, you guys have posed some great questions. Keep the comments coming. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Guys, please. That's all we ask. Nothing else. And I will be putting up the questions that people. There's one from Twins Ball Daily as well about the youth. We will bring that up as well. Would you take Gravenberch and Kessie till the end of the season to try and get top 4? And
it certainly wouldn't harm our chances. I mean, these are sort of the signings people want. Guys in a certain age range with certain physical attributes to complement guys who are suffering, like Fabinho.
I would take Kessie. Yeah. I wouldn't take Gravenberch, and I think we've got to be careful because of our squad as well. We've got to let one go now before we bring another in. So hopefully Nat Phillips or Adrian or whoever's been registered, we need to let one go, I believe, to let one in. But if it was an option of those two, I would take Kessie. And I do want to reiterate, and again, it's only what I get told. It's not that I've got sources close to John Henry or the club or whatever. Frank Kessie's agent has offered the player to us. The Ivory Coast player has been offered to Liverpool on a loan where we would pick up some of the wages at Barcelona. But yeah, he's been offered to us for a 6-month loan.
Interesting.
Your thoughts? If you had to take one,
the ceiling on Gravenberch is so high. Whether there's an issue with the mentality or the personality, I'm not quite sure. But I just think if you can get him into gear, I think Ryan Gravenberch could be a top 10 midfielder in the world. But I think at the same time, Avi, you're right. It's a bit telling that he was never, I think, reliably linked to us at all. I don't remember any sort of athletic article pinning him to us or saying we were looking at us. And for the price that he moved to Bayern for, I'm pretty sure it was in the realm of 25 to 35 million. I would have thought for that price, absolutely Liverpool would have been all over that. But I think it's telling that we weren't.
Him and I forget his name, Daniel Marlin.
Yes.
Those two were like the next up and coming sort of, youngsters coming out of the Dutch
Eredivisie,
league.
yeah.
Yeah, these two will make it around Europe. Marlin's not pulled up any trees at Dortmund. I know he's had injuries, but shocking, absolutely
And and
shocking.
and and you'd have to think, Pep Linders is so, such a keen admirer of the Dutch league and obviously knows so much about it and is going to continue to target players from the Dutch league. It's probably telling that Malen Gravenberch never whispered a link to Liverpool. I'm sure you could find one if you Googled it, but I don't remember any of the reliable Liverpool journalistic heads saying much about it. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. If I'm forgetting an Athletic article or an Ornstein tweet or something like that. But I don't. I think you're right. I think it's telling guys like Gravenberch and Malen were never seriously pursued by Liverpool for the prices that they went for. I think it's telling that we didn't go after them. But at the same time, me personally, just as a fan of the game, I really like Ryan Gravenberch.
Like if we get him on loan and there's an obligation to buy, where does that put us with Mateus Nunes? Where does that put us with Jude? Hence,
Yeah.
I would love. Look, I'm always prepared to give players a chance, and if they come to the football club, heck, I was even looking forward to King Arthur, right? But at 20 years old, I'm not sure Gravenberch is what we need in that midfield. You can say, I think Shane McGee said he could stabilize our situation. Yeah, he probably could, but he's not played at Bayern Munich, And
Yeah.
yes, I would take anyone right now to midfield three to give us a bit of energy, to give us an uplift. I'm not sure if Gravenberch is that guy. If Frank Kessie comes in, that first crunching tackle that he makes in the Premiership, it will lift the players. I'm not sure Gravenberch is that player.
Yeah, I think Kessie might be a more stable option. I think there's fewer greater specimens in European ball than Frank Kessie. And I would take both, to be honest.
Another player that's caught our eye. I'm not sure we covered it, but I'm pretty sure we didn't. Mason Mount, dubbed by many as the heir to Frank Lampard. He's had a good sort of 18 months. He's dropped off this season. The energy levels aren't the same. I've mentioned how he's gone through 3-4 managers already at the age of 23. So there's no consistency there in terms of coaching and what each coach thinks of Mason Mount and what they want him to become. So he hasn't had that. 40 million this summer. Does that entice you at all, Mr. Soccer God?
I like Mason Mount. I'm going to be honest. I really do like him. I know he divides opinion at Chelsea. But again, he's a bit sort of like our situation. Chelsea, obviously very dysfunctional this season. Numerous changes, so many routes pulled up, new routes planted. Maybe he's been a victim of all of that. And you would imagine his playing time going into next season is obviously going to be affected by the arrival of, Mudryk and Nkunku. Maybe guys who aren't playing, the exact same position as Mason Mount, but the ripple effect that they'll send throughout the squad and sort of their magnetic pull might take some of those minutes away from him. But what I will say, what I think is telling about Mason Mount is that in his young career so far, what do you say, Abby, 4 or 5 different managers in the previous 5 years of his career, his young career, all of them adore him, have adored him. Obviously, who cares what Frank Lampard thinks? But other guys, of us, Tuchel, obviously, Gareth Southgate. I'm not a huge fan of the way England play, but I think Gareth Southgate seems like a sound guy. All of the managers, no matter who they are, what their tactical ethos or setup is, they all seem to really like Mason Mount and are willing to trust him in big situations. And I think the guy is obviously suffering from confidence. Some of the, or lack thereof, some of the Chelsea fans that I speak to, some of the rational, level-headed ones, they say he's a portrait of a guy who's down on himself, doesn't back himself to make the killer pass or take the shot. Whereas he used to sort of just be the guy who shot and passed all the time. So for 40 million, it becomes tempting because of the whole homegrown thing, doesn't it? That's the other side. That's the other side of the coin.
It does need to be addressed this summer.
It absolutely does need to be addressed. And I would prefer the homegrown addition that we have to make, I would prefer it be, someone who's actually useful as opposed to, how City have been doing Scott Carson. You know what I mean? I would prefer it to be actually something useful as opposed to just being performative, just being a box to tick. And I do think Mason Mount is a step ahead of Curtis Jones as well. Some people might call them similar players. I think Mason Mount much more
Well, he's put the
mature.
numbers up. Mount has put the
He's
numbers up.
Yeah,
He's
Mount's played
consistent with
two,
his,
two,
doesn't get
200
injured.
more games than Curtis Jones. Yeah, obviously. So, yeah, I wouldn't
He
be
seems like a
opposed to
Klopp
it.
player. If you go off by Klopp
Mhm.
with James Milner, I know he came under Brendan, but he's obviously had a lot of game time under Klopp, and Klopp trusts him. If you Ox, big fan of that Klopp was even in his Dortmund days. Mount is a similar kind of mold, Evan. Similar mold,
Yeah.
gets goals, and I think Klopp, he's the kind of coach to elevate him. Give him 2 years with Mason Mount, we could be talking about a top English midfielder for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the upside for Mount is there, which it could end up being a very, very savvy sort of move. And it reminds me a bit of the Oxlade-Chamberlain move, similar price point, a guy who was seemingly rated by a good chunk of people, but his upside was maybe being capped at Arsenal. I'm smelling a similar situation here. And I think you're right. He seems to fit the example of what a Klopp player should be. And Mason Mount, a flexible guy. I could see him playing not only in the midfield three, but in emergencies. I could see him playing left wing for us as well. Not blessed with explosive pace, but a bit kind of in the Coutinho mold of winger, an attacking midfielder who plays inverted and through his own guile, trickery, and work rate is able to make things happen. But I definitely think he would be a sort of offensive-minded 4-3-3 option for us. The only issue is I think Mateus Nunes is a better player than him. That's really how highly I rate him. And if rumors are true and Mateus Nunes to Liverpool is an inevitability as opposed to, he's a target, then I think for the price point that's been talked about for Mateus Nunes, it's very similar to Mount. I mean, I guess the question I'll throw back to you now, Avi, is in terms of ticking the necessary boxes for the profiles we need in midfield, is Bellingham, Nunes, Mount, is that a wide enough variety? Or would you swap out Mason Mount for more of a destroyer type midfielder?
Yeah, if those were the only three that you're offering me, I do feel that we will still be short in the 6 role. Mateus Nunes can play the 6, but not as a 6 like you mentioned last week, as a
let me put it this way. Let me narrow the question a little bit. Is Bajcetic and Fabinho swapping minutes in the 6 good enough across 4 competitions next season?
I would like to. I would hope so.
Yeah,
but at 19, Bajcetic next season, he'll be 19. I still think
we're going off of a really small sample size.
We're missing. We're missing. We're missing.
We're going off of like 4 or 5 positive.
And a player like Caicedo, RCM, DM, left CM, 8 or a 6. Mm-hmm. He has facets of where he can play in midfield. He's not assigned to just one position. We've seen that the Everton game this season, absolutely put in a masterclass attacking wise. He was so progressive that his progressive outdid the defensive work. That he was brilliantly defensively, but we saw a different ilk to his game, going forward, attacking, got the assist as well. So for me, I still think we'll need a 6, which could pose question marks over Fabinho's long-term future at Liverpool. If a £30 million offer comes for Fabinho, it is enticing considering he'll be 30 in October. But yeah, for me, Mateus Nunes, Jude, and we need a DM, and I'm hoping that's Caicedo. But hey, I think we may need 4 because for the what I think is we're getting rid of 4-5 myself, Evan, because the way that Klopp's been talking, ruthless, and I want him to stick to those words. It seems as if he's going to have a bit of a clear out, So let's just hope that there's 3 or 4 coming in before we get on to our score predictions for the next 5 games. So me and Evan said, let's do something, let's do something fun for the back end of the show. And we said the next 5 games, we were going to predict the scores. And before we come on to that, there are some questions that we just need to touch upon. So Twins Ball Daily, go and give them a like and subscribe, guys. 2 brothers, one's a Liverpool fan, one's a Man United fan, from Malaysia and Pakistan, respectively, trying to get their names out there, talk really good Football Talk. I was on there, one of their shows, brilliant show. So go and give them a like and a subscribe. First question, genuine Q. Would you guys rather not qualify for Europa League this season and go full throttle for league and domestic cups next season, provided our summer goes well? Evan?
Oof. This is a fun question. I'm gonna keep it up so that I can fully digest it. The issue with not, even though I don't want to play Europa League football, I don't want to go play Red Star Belgrade on Thursday night. All due respect to them. I think the issue with not qualifying for any form of Europa League football is that we might not get as many players in the summer as we think we do. Because if we have no form of European football whatsoever, Klopp and Pep will quite literally just look at the numbers, see how many games we're playing, and be like, all right, Jude, Mateus Nunes, fine. That's all we need for the midfield. That is what I think will happen. But, should we get European football, they'll be like, okay, maybe we need 3 bodies because that adds a ton of games and we back ourselves to go deep. So, I mean, that I'm obviously just like proposing a hypothetical situation. For me personally, it doesn't make a difference to me whether we qualify or not. I don't care. Winning the Europa League, nice to win things. Would obviously allow guys like Bajcetic.
That's worse than you not bothering. No, shut up. That's worse than you're not bothering with the domestic cups last season. No, I do not want the Europa League football. It's not Liverpool. I don't care. I don't want Thursdays and Sundays.
I'm literally. Are you listening to what I'm saying? I'm saying I don't care about it. That's literally what I said.
But I don't want to be in it. No, caring about it and being in it.
You don't want to be in it. Full stop. You don't want to be in it. Full stop.
I don't.
Me personally, I just don't care about it. If we qualify for it, whatever. But I just don't care about it. I'm not going to be watching Europa League, games next season at the tip of my chair. I guess if I had to choose, gun to my head, I had to choose, I would say, I'll pass. You know what I mean? I'll pass. I would rather just really go for the league.
A free run, yeah. A free run, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about a free run. City, might have a rebuild and they might go again. 90 plus points. But I guess twin ball daily. If I had to ask, yeah, I guess I would pass. But I'm not gonna be like Avi. I'm not gonna be crying and throwing a tantrum over it if we do qualify.
I don't want Europa League. I've seen the Europa League in my heyday. I've seen it 2001 when were you born? 2002 were you born, Evan?
1996. You really think? You think I'm that young? You think I'm 21 years old? That's crazy.
So you missed. Well, I know you don't watch international football, so you missed Euro '96, World Cup '98. No memories, huh?
No, not a single one.
Wow.
My earliest footballing related memory is sort of Michael Owen's emergence. That's sort of my earliest memories of that. Yeah.
Wow, you missed a couple of World Cups there. Another question, Evan. Baby Evan, that should be your new name, but don't worry. Twins Ball Daily again. Thanks, guys. Guys, do touch upon the youngster succession plan as well for Klopp 2.0. Jones, Elliott, Carvalho is still feel we haven't identified their positions. Trent only generational one to get through Klopp so far. Just quickly coming on that, I do believe Bajcetic will make it. I think his long-term future will be at Liverpool. Jones, Elliott, Carvalho. I'll let you hit those 3.
I do think Bajcetic will make it. Obviously, very small sample size so far, but just based on that, he seems to be a versatile midfielder who doesn't seem to have any obvious weaknesses. Carvalho, I have no idea how we're going to work him into this team. He doesn't look right as a left wing. We obviously don't play with a central 10. Bit too diminutive enough to be a out and out number 9. What I fear for Fabio Carvalho is what ultimately I think Takumi Minamino's fate was at Liverpool, of the sense of outside of 18 yards, Takumi Minamino was basically useless. Did not contribute to much of the build-up play, constantly losing the ball in midfield. Didn't really have the out and out speed to beat defenders over 20, 30 yards down the wing. Couldn't really hold the ball up, but inside the box where defenders have to be a little more careful, I thought Takumi Minamino was great, and he obviously ripped us a new one at Anfield in that Champions League campaign, but it was all from inside the box. He was just brutal inside the box, and then of course with his performances inside the box last season, he carried us to domestic cup finals. So that's what I fear for Fabio Carvalho. I hope I'm proved wrong, but he liked Minamino. He's clearly a good player, but I fear he'll never find a home in our version of the 4-3-3 that allows him to be effective and relied upon in all departments. So Harvey Elliott, I'm a Harvey Elliott believer, absolutely. Positionally, it is still up in the air. I do think when Liverpool have a functional team and our midfield is playing well and we're playing at the levels that we're accustomed to last season, the last few years, I absolutely think you can carry someone like Harvey Elliott, who's a natural 10, natural right winger. You can carry him in midfield because you're going to have 75% of the ball. And you have guys like Fabinho and Thiago and previous seasons, Wijnaldum just running the show. So I do think you can carry Harvey Elliott in a season like this season where we're so dysfunctional, so tactically lacking, tired, injuries, everything. Yeah, you're going to get punished for playing Harvey Elliott in midfield. But I think as soon as we return to functionality, I think Harvey Elliott can be a right-sided central midfielder for Liverpool. And I think I'm going to die on that hill. Jones, no, not really. I think he has a wealth of ability. For me, it's never been about ability for Curtis Jones. It's similar things. Where is he going to play? Does he have the final product? Does he have the attitude? I'm just not so sure. And it seems like his development has hit a wall.
I think the injuries haven't helped him. I think
the injuries haven't helped. And obviously his breakout season was in our last dysfunctional season, the COVID year. Yeah. So I think he's been unfortunate with injuries. He's been unfortunate with the timing of his breakthrough. It'll never be about a lack of ability for Curtis Jones. I think ability-wise, he's got plenty, but it'll be other factors that prevent him. And then who was the last one, Abby? You've got
three. It was just three.
It was
Jones,
three.
Cavalier.
Okay, gotcha.
And I worry about Elliott and Jones. Jones only recently, I think the injuries haven't helped, hampered him. I think there would have been a quicker decision on his future if he had stayed fit. I believe he's just turned 22. So look, I'm not saying we're writing him off, but in our eyes, these who we think will make it. I think Bajicic, I've said it for a while. I think he will be a mainstay. I think, again, he can play as a DM and RCM. I know there's a wild shout out there I can see the similarities, but Ibra, there's one word that I tell you on the phone calls on WhatsApp, late night, sabr karo, please, sabr. Just calm down with these comparisons already. There's one other question, AM. I think that's my cousin. Any news on Cade Gordon? I believe he's in full training. He's one that slipped away, hasn't it, Evan? Because there was so much hype about Cade Gordon. Brought him from Derby, paid a fee, a compensation fee, whatever you want to call it. Scored in one of the FA Cup games, and then he went missing. I know he had an issue with his abductor, and he had sort of like a bout of bad COVID, but he's back in full training. So that's good news. He's an exciting talent, isn't he? Because, he's similar. I'm not saying he's going to be like him, but he plays on that right-hand side of a front three. A la Salah, sort of like maybe his long-term replacement. Hopefully all is not lost on Cade.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think, obviously missing nearly 12 months of football is damaging no matter who you are. But I do think if you're going to miss a year, I think missing it between the ages of 16 and 17 is better than 23 to 24, better than missing a year of your prime, per se. And because, at 16, 17, he's probably not good enough to break into the first team. But, ages 22, 23, 24, when he starts to get good enough to really push people for starting spots, then he's out for a year. That, I think, is more damaging. So the fact that he's been able to sort of quietly and conveniently have this time away from the game, although I'm sure it's been difficult and it's hampered him in ways, I do think it's less destructive than it happening later down the line.
Yeah, no, great. I think we've covered that part of segment of the youngsters. Now our last bit, the last sort of 5-10 minutes, our score predictions for the next 5 games. They're not all league games. They are just in the order that we're going to be playing them. I've gone for my positive energy. I think that's what we need right now. And I've been negative for the last few weeks on various shows and channels.
You have.
I've had a bit of a minute. But, FA Cup game against Brighton. I think we'll do them this time. I think we'll go to the Amex, and I think we'll turn around the result from the league. And I think we'll go there and beat them 2-1. I think Nunes, it's imperative that he starts. He's got to start. He's got the energy. He's got that sort of aggression. He's the only one that's got a little bit of, an ounce of fight in him. So hopefully a week's rest. I think the Brighton game, I think we'll beat them. Yeah, Eunice, that's nothing new, is it? You know that I'm fucking crazy, Ali. If I'm crazy, Ali, if I'm crazy, I can't say. I don't know how to describe you, because you are up more than I am. I thought I do long hours by staying up 17, 80 hours a day, but you literally are Mr. 24/7. Anyway, the Wolves game, Liverpool, we should beat Wolves away at the Molineux. If we can't beat them in the league, then we have serious issues. And listen, we need to make top four. We need to make top four, and it's now or never. We need to string results together. Liverpool, Everton, new manager syndrome now. Maybe the Everton players will get a lift, but I believe we have enough, especially at home, to beat them. It is a Merseyside derby. Newcastle, these are a game where everyone said, Avi, you've gone mad, absolutely mad. But I believe we will beat Newcastle. Eddie Howe, they're on form, but I think we're starting to see them a little bit now. The tiring legs, the Joe Lintons, I know Bruno Guimaraes has been injured, but there's been a few performances in the last 2-3 games. Newcastle aren't at the races. Almiron has gone a little bit missing as well for them. And hopefully by then, if we've strung the 3 results above them, 3 wins, I think we can go to St. James's Park and beat them. And then Real Madrid, look, I think our only chance of qualifying for Champions League is by winning it. But and Real Madrid, we owe them. It's gone 3-4 years where they've got the better of us, and it's hurt every single time. And I thought in Paris that we would make the wrongs into rights, but we couldn't. Thanks to Courtois, and I just didn't think that we could get going in that game. We've got to beat them at home. If we have any chance of beating Real Madrid, we've got to get a result at home. Even though we have beaten them away. I remember Yossi Benayoun header in the 2008 and 9 season under Rafa. But no, it's imperative that if we've got any chance of Real Madrid, we've got to go all guns blazing. But I think it'll be a tight affair. I've gone for a 2-1, Evan. And it is eternal optimism. It is the positive energy. But if anyone can, this Klopp's team can. There you go, Evan. I'll end it with that.
Fair enough. And if Avi is eternal optimism, then I am valid negativity. I don't think enough has changed between now and the last time we played Brighton away to expect anything different. So I think it'll be 1-1. It'll go to extra time. What happens after that is I think anybody's business. It's up in the air, 50-50. Flip a coin. I don't know. Wolves away, I think, is doable because we looked convincingly better than them at our worst with a team full of second and third string options. So I imagine we're going to go a little more full strength for Wolves. I think a win should be possible because they didn't show me anything the other week to make me think that they could, they couldn't handle Liverpool's second stringers and a bunch of guys, square pegs and round holes. I don't think they can handle us when we're at whatever version of full strength we are these days. 2-0 to Everton is, I think, standard. The crowd will be up for it. Merseyside derby. New manager bounce is a myth. If you look at the numbers, it doesn't actually exist. So I don't really think it's a factor. I do think Newcastle are a better side than Liverpool these days. I think away at St. James's Park with this new invigorated, we'll call it Newcastle team, we might put up a fight. It could end up being a bit of a shootout, but 2-1 is how I see that playing out. And, despite Real Madrid's current predicament, they have their own problems. They just got thrashed by Barcelona, I think. They have their own issues, and, but I do think, obviously, the Champions League, that's their DNA, This might sound like casual punditry, but it's true. You know what I mean? That is their competition.
What you've done is absolutely stupid. You've given us no hope in the league because you've got us losing to Newcastle. No, stay quiet. You gave us a 1-1 against Brighton, right? And you should know by now. I know you don't watch the domestic cups, but you should have put either we win on penalties or we lose that in extra time. Or
I do watch
and then we've got the Real Madrid game where you've given us a loss at home as well. So there's no positivity coming out of your side at all. It's not valid at all. I don't care if they're more realistic. It's absolutely like
the people agree with me.
This show is meant to be like, giving a little bit of harmony, a little bit of positivity back. There's a lot of other channels that give out a little bit of negativity and they're down in the dumps. At least our show is meant to be a bit more uplifting. But you've done the absolutely same as the others. But it's fine. It's your predictions. I shouldn't say anything. I'll keep quiet from now on. I'm sorry.
How many people think he's actually going to keep quiet? I'm not so sure. So listen, it's called valid negativity for a reason. This is just how it
Like,
is.
look
The
at
team.
this. Like, look at this.
Listen, no, no, no.
This is what you've
listen,
attracted. No, no.
no.
Evan Gregory, this is what you've attracted. People like this. Mr. Fahim Shah, big up to Fahim Shah, by the way. It's an absolute great human being. And I say that honestly, great human being. We're going to lose the next, draw or lose the next 5. Like, that's what you've attracted that, not me. You've attracted that, sir. Anyway.
This is where it's really at. You both depressed me. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
Let's go.
As long as you, Zia Udin, as long as you like and subscribe to the channel, please. I know I'll come less if you at least do the like and subscribe. Do the normal bit. And look, people are saying you're being real. Like, come on, guys, man. Let's have a bit of positivity. We can still do this. We're Liverpool Football Club. We've come from far worse. We've come from far worse, but it's okay.
Hey, remember 45 seconds ago when he did the zip motion and said he was done talking? That's crazy. Listen, the rationale behind this, I don't think I'm being overly negative. The teams that I think are currently better at football than Liverpool are beating us, and the teams that I think we're better than, we're beating them. So I think I toe a very moderate line here, whereas you are the bit more radical. You're the extremist in this situation. I'm not the doomsday prepper. Newcastle are a better team than Liverpool these days. They're probably going to beat us.
Yeah.
Real Madrid, player for player, are better than us. They're probably going to beat us. That's really all it is. I'm not saying, fucking 5-0 Madrid or, 3-0 Wolves or any of these things. The teams we're better than, we're probably going to beat.
They could go either way. They could go either way.
Yeah, they could go either way. You know what I mean? You could be right. I don't want to be right, Avi. I hope you're right. Obviously, everybody hopes you're right. But I'm just trying to be somewhat realistic. I'm a moderate. This is a moderate take, and that's what I gave you.
It's a negative take. It's not moderate. It's a negative take.
Took such personal offense to it, and it hurt my feelings a little bit.
Just one last message before we wrap it up, and I've got a question for you, by the way, Evan. And we don't need a whole thesis on it either. A quick yes or no.
You literally okay, whatever.
Scott Willig, hope I've said that right. Thank you for joining us. Please make sure you guys have liked and subscribed. This is football life, guys. We've had the glory days. We need to lay low, take our lumps, and rebuild strong again. We will return. You never walk alone. That's a beautiful message, Evan. And that's a message of positivity. And it's a message of belief.
Agree.
We will come
again.
I agree. We will come
and
again.
I agree.
Last question for you, my man.
Okay.
And Evan will be joining me soon. We will be doing a watch along. And Evan will be on we will both be watching from the sofa a game. We're gonna look at which game where he can come over, stay a couple of nights, and we're gonna watch a game together.
Stay a couple of nights. This guy thinks I'm his only friend. It's crazy.
You are my only friend. A quick question for you, Evan. 7-8 days till the transfer window ends. I'll be in Mexico. There's a story behind this. The last time I was in Mexico was this time, exactly the same time as last year, and Luis Diaz was signed. I did a show with one of my best friends, Grizzly, and Luis Diaz was signed whilst I was in Mexico.
You did?
I'm in Mexico from Wednesday onwards. Do you believe, I'm not saying this week, but do you believe we get a player of any sort, either on loan or on a permanent deal? And go on your high horse and name the player too.
If we do, no, I don't think we do, if I'm being honest. I just don't see how it happens. I just don't believe it.
Could have just done it for the sake of the show. Just said, yeah, Abby.
For the sake of the show. Okay.
Realistically, if there was one to come in, who's it going to be quick?
Okay, it's going to be the loan move for Kessie or Gravenberg. I don't see a permanent deal happening right now. The club have waited for Jude Bellingham this long. They've been super conservative to make sure that they have the cash for him and they have the spot for him and all these things. Why would they throw a wrench in that by doing some 40-50 million pound panic buy right now? Although I want us to sign a midfielder right now, and I do think there are midfielders out there right now that improve us instantly and improve us 5-6 years from now. Realistically speaking, I don't think the club does it because it doesn't fit in with their vision of if we're assuming Bellingham and Mateus Nunes are Liverpool players come to Summer, if that's the hypothetical situation we're living in, then I don't see why they would compromise.
Don't you even fucking dare.
Oh God,
behave yourself, Asim. I will pull the plug on this channel. Yeah.
No. So Avi, no. But if it was to happen, it would be a loan for one of the two players we discussed earlier.
Okay. Fair enough.
Are you
Um,
gonna chime in, or is that it?
um, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we will maybe go into the 11th hour and try to get Moises Caicedo. Just
What are
saying
you
that.
wearing right now? What is this? You got some like shiny jacket
No,
on.
it's an old jacket that I got. It's a Valentino actually. Thank you very
Oh
much.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
cute. It's
it's a bit
cute.
tight for me. It's a bit tight for me. Which you'll find out when you see me. But no, I think we may go in the 11th hour to Tony Bloom, give him the 70 million that he wants, structure it the way he wants, and pull in Caicedo. But let's see what happens, guys. Everyone that's been in the chat today, bless you all, and all we
For
ask is
real.
like
For real.
and subscribe. This is Across the Pond. We're still trying to figure things out with timings, but there's been 60 of you at one point, 70 of you guys at one point. Big love to you all. Listen, we just try to bring our own little take on football. You know where to find Evan at Soccer God on his Twitter handle. He's growing his channel as well. We'll hopefully see some videos in the next few months. You guys know where to find me. I'm always sort of flirting around all over the place, all over Europe, all over America on different channels. But yeah, no, like and subscribe to Born and Red. Big thanks to Gene and Asim. They did a great show with Mo Chatra earlier on. Go and check it out. It was a great show. Mo Chatra laid it down. He went into the financials of what's available, the profits, whether
Big
the
fan of
owners
his.
take
Big fan of his.
back pockets. Great. And Gene was as Saj did his first show as host. He was absolutely
Wow.
terrible, but it's okay. It's okay. He's allowed to be. He is the co-owner of the channel. But
Lofty
guys,
standards.
big up to you guys. Big up to you guys. And we won't be back obviously this week. We've done our show. I'll be on vacation. Next week, me and Evan will probably do a show. Let's do a bit of a we'll do something different. We'll do something different. Evan's got like
Okay.
10 days to come up with something creative.
Oh
Where
gosh, yeah.
we'll put some gifs, some videos, some memes. We'll put them on gifs. Is it gifs or gifs?
Technically, it's GIFs, but people say GIFs.
Gifts seems like gifts. We're not going to give out any gifts yet. We may do in the coming months, but some gifs. But yeah, and also congratulations to Chad Saj. Not only did he host today, he became a father for the third time. So big
Hey,
up to
there
Gene.
we go. There we
Gonna have
go.
a drink on his name because he doesn't obviously drink. But I'll have a few on his name tonight.
You always
Guys,
have
love
to.
you and leave you. You guys are the best. Woo!